Hello everyone, welcome to EdYourself, and in this video we are going to see how to associate a workflow to a workflow scheme or a project, and also we are going to understand the workflow scheme in Jira. Alright, in the previous video we have learned how to create a workflow in Jira, right? And also we have created one of the workflow called SP bug workflow. And since the workflow is not mapped to any workflow scheme or to a project in Jira, it is listed in the inactive workflows. As we can see, the SP Scrum project bug workflow is not included in any project, which means it is not mapped to any project. And also, it is not included in any workflow scheme. Now, as part of this video, we are going to see how to map the workflow to a workflow scheme and also to a project. And just in case if you haven't watched the previous video on how to create a workflow in Jira, I recommend you to go back to the video and just have a look. Then you will be having a clear picture on how to create a workflow in Jira. Alright, now let's navigate to the workflow schemes. We are in the global level, right? And the navigation part is very simple. All we have to do is to click on the settings and we have to click on the issues. We will be landed in the issue types page. If we scroll down a little bit, we can see the workflow schemes, so that we will be falling into a page where we can see all the project workflow schemes. Now if there are 100 projects in Jira, we can see each and every project name and the workflow scheme associated to that particular project. Okay. Now in this example we are talking about a Scrum project, right? So I can see the Scrum project name here, and also I can see the workflow scheme that has been used by the Scrum project. We are in the global level, and even if you would like to confirm by navigating to the project about the name of the workflow scheme, just in the second tab, if we navigate to the Jira instance, we are talking about the Scrum project, right? In the Scrum project, if we scroll down a little bit and if we click on the project settings, we will be finding the workflows option in the left side panel. By clicking on that, we can confirm the workflow scheme being used by the Scrum project. If I take the copy of the workflow scheme name and if I search for it here, the same name will be pulled up even in the global workflow schemes page. Now in the workflow scheme, what is a workflow scheme in Jira? First of all, for each and every project in Jira, there will be a workflow scheme. We have discussed in the earlier video, right? Under the workflow scheme, we can map the workflow to issue type. Either the same workflow can be mapped to multiple issue types, or even a single workflow can be mapped to single issue type. A project can have a number of workflows, but a single workflow scheme. So in the global level, all we have to do is to click on the edit button in order to get into the workflow scheme configuration page. Alright, this would be how the workflow scheme in the global level looks like. On the very top, we can see the name of the workflow scheme. If we want to do any kind of changes to the workflow scheme name, here is the place that we can do as a Jira admin. And then we clearly confirm that this particular workflow scheme is currently mapped to one project, and it is Scrum project. So a quick note, in Jira, the same workflow scheme can be mapped to n number of projects, might be 2, might be 10, might be 100. So be careful whenever you are making any kind of changes. If you see a workflow scheme has been mapped to n number of projects, be careful while you make the changes, because the changes that you make to the workflow scheme can be affected to all the projects that are linked to that particular workflow scheme. Now currently our workflow scheme has been mapped to a single project. It means we can do any kind of changes in this particular workflow scheme as needed, so that the changes will be only affected to the project that we are doing. Now as part of the requirement, we have to learn, right, how to map a workflow to a workflow scheme. So we do have one of the button called add workflow. And before that, observe very clearly, because even we have to understand the workflow schemes page. Whatever the in the project level, whatever the workflow name that we are seeing here, which has been mapped to all issue types, the same workflow name that we are seeing in the global level. We can see all unassigned issue types can be used the software simplified workflow, which means even if I create 3 custom issue types into the project, whatever the workflow that has been mentioned in the default, I mean all the unassigned issue types will make an use of the default default workflow. That would be one of the point you have to keep in mind. Now we have to add a new workflow from the existing workflow pages. We have created one of the workflow, right? SP bug workflow. In order to pull that workflow, in order to map that workflow to an issue type in this particular workflow scheme, we have to click on add existing. It will take us to a workflow page where we do have multiple workflows, out of which we have to select the workflow that we would like to map to an issue type. So in the last video we have created this particular workflow, right? Just again, if anybody haven't seen how to create a workflow in Jira, I recommend you to go back to how to create a workflow video. That would clearly let you know how to design this particular workflow. Alright, now we have choose the workflow. All we have to do is to click on next. Then it will ask us whether you would like to map the SP bug workflow to which issue type. Now if I select all unassigned issue types, now whatever the issue types that we have in the Jira project, the newly SP bug workflow will be applicable to all these unassigned issue types. But our requirement is to map this particular issue type, right, which is bug, to the SP bug workflow. So step number 1 in the last video we have created SP bug workflow. Step number 2, we have navigated to the workflow schemes in this video and we are mapping the bug issue type to the SP bug workflow. If I click on finish, we can see the mapping happened. In the SP software simplified workflow scheme, which is being shared by the project Scrum project, currently all the unassigned issue types in the project is using software simplified workflow for project SP. And there is one issue type called bug. It is using an individual workflow, which is SP bug workflow. So the changes has been made. All you have to remember is that in Jira, whenever we make any changes in the workflow, we have to click on the publish. If we do not click on the publish, it will remain as the draft. Whatever the changes that we made will not be reflected. So it is always good to publish. If not, it will remain as unpublished. So now we want the changes to be published, right? By clicking on the publish. Alright, whenever we click on publish, it will ask some steps. Now the current workflow, I want to show you an example. Just keep an eye on this particular page. In the second page, we are in the project workflow scheme, right? Workflows page. Now currently the bug issue type is using software simplified workflow. When I click on the diagram, I can see there are 3 statuses: to do, done, in progress. Now in the new workflow, we clearly know we do have in progress status, we do have done status, but instead of to do, we do have a new status called start. Now it is asking us, alright, in the bug issue type, earlier you are using software simplified workflow for project SP, and in that workflow you do have a status called to do. Now if there are any issues in the project being used this particular status, to which status that you would like to move, because now you are going to make an use of the new workflow, which is SP bug workflow. So we can also confirm that currently 0 issues are using bug issue type. Even though if the number is 1 or 100, we have to do the mapping since we do not have the to do status in the new workflow. So what I can do, we can map the to do status only to the open, right? We cannot map it to in progress. Doesn't make sense. We cannot map from to do to done. It doesn't mean, like, it's not a meaningful thing. Only thing that we can do is to map the to do status to open. That would be good, right? So that we can click on associate. as we can see, the page is being loaded, and let's wait for a moment. Alright, now the migrating issues to the new workflow. Even though 0 issues are there, but still the workflow page looks like this. If there are 10 issues, 10 issues are in to do, all the 10 issues will be migrated to open status. Now let's click on acknowledge. As I can see, your workflows has been published. We have made the changes in the global level as a Jira admin. And also, if we navigate to the project page, we are on the workflows page, right? Workflows tab in the project level. If I do a page refresh, all I can see is a new workflow under this particular workflow scheme, and the new workflow name is going to be sp:"bug workflow, and I can see that this particular bug workflow will be come down. Let's do a quick page refresh. Alright, as we can see, under this particular workflow scheme, we do have now currently 2 workflows. All the unassigned issue types are using the software simplified workflow, and the assigned issue type, which is bug, we have assigned it to sp:"bug workflow. If I click on the diagram, I can see the newly created workflow in the last video is now reflecting exactly for the bug issue type. So I hope everybody understand how to map an workflow to an issue type and to a project. And if you would like to know much more about the workflow schemes, probably if possible I try to do much more videos about the workflow schemes as well. So in the upcoming videos, we are going to see much more about the advanced workflows, like we do have conditions, validators, post functions, properties, and many more. So each and everything will have its own dedicated videos, so stay tuned. And maybe if you feel that these videos are very helpful, just share it with your friends that you would like to, and also like the video, that would be helpful to us. And do not forget to subscribe to the channel to get many more good videos in future. And I see you all in the upcoming video. Thank you very much for watching.